Here with reaction, Fox News contributor Jamu Green and Independent Women's Forum senior policy analyst Patrice Lee Onwuka. Jamu, I'll start with you. I mean, isn't this kind of a reality? Like of how you feel? I mean, and don't you think there's some good to come of this in that we are here right now talking about it?
Absolutely. Let me start by saying when we first saw that video, I was with my cousin. I have a ritual with her. We go to Starbucks every morning and we get our green tea matcha soy lattes. And she turned to me and she said, "So what are you going to do? You're not going back there, are you?" And I said, "Just wait." Starbucks has been a corporate champion of social justice causes. Just wait and see what they're going to do. And now with less than 6 weeks notice or so, they're going to close all of their stores. This is exactly what they should be doing. And I think you're absolutely right, Trish, that this is an opportunity for a much larger part of the population to participate in this as well. I think corporations, small businesses, whether you have 10 employees or 10,000 employees, should take a lesson with what Starbucks is doing before a video happens, before you have to do CYA, and think about how can we incorporate implicit bias training into our workers' training so that any customer-facing situation, you're not going to find yourself in that situation.
The reality is
implicit bias is universal. It is not limited to race, gender, or even country. I have implicit bias. You have it. We all have it. Learning about how to deal with it is what's going to make this racial situation, anxiety, better and be able to actually move forward.
So we're talking about it. I mean, that's a step in the right direction. But, I don't think it's necessarily up to every corporation to educate America on this. I mean, hopefully this is starting at home. This is starting younger. And people learn that you shouldn't have these biases and everyone's an individual. Look, Patrice, do you know how many times I've jumped into a Starbucks with my kids because it's freezing and we're trying to get an Uber or something and I'm on the phone, I'm like, here, pop in here, and nobody's thrown me out. That's a difficult thing to live with, and you know what, you shouldn't have to live with that. This fear of being thrown out because of the color of your skin.
So let's look at this through two different issues. Number one, about loitering. And I think there's a corporate policy issue at play here, and whether it was consistently or inconsistently applied. I mean, the manager will say that Starbucks actually does not want people to loiter in their coffee shops and use their Wi-Fi for free and take up space. So, was she justified? Well, that's another question. But while I love that we're talking about this as an issue and talking about how we view other people, I'm not sure that a bias training for a few hours out of the day is suddenly going to change people's perceptions and behaviors.
No, I don't think it will. I agree with you on that. And Jamu, that's not necessarily what we're seeing try to be accomplished, though. I mean, sure, Starbucks, I do think it's CYA. They're like, okay, we're going to get out in front of this story, and guess what? We're closing all these shops, and we're going to have this bias training, and voila, we'll all be colorblind. I mean, but we are talking about it here on this show. We'll be talking about it, I guarantee you, on May 29th when we can't get the lattes, too. And if nothing else, Jamu, doesn't it just cause Americans to maybe think about it a little? And isn't that a good thing?
It is a good thing for this to be top of mind. But I want to clarify some of the points that y'all just made, that I think there's a misunderstanding about what implicit bias is. We live in a very complex world where our brain science has to give us tools to operate in all of the different millions of messages we're getting from the media and our surroundings. And so we have to categorize. Our brains do that so that we can function in this society that is very complex. And so that's where stereotyping comes from. That's where implicit bias comes from. And it's not something that's going to go away because of a training. Yeah. What the training does, it allows you to understand that it exists within you, and how can you be in better control of your conscious actions to reflect that unconscious bias that as human beings, we all have.
You do think that?
Yes,
it's interesting to me because I don't necessarily, I don't know. Maybe I'm a little naive on this stuff. And I grew up in New Hampshire, where you were a minority if you were Catholic. But I don't know as I comment but people do. I get it. I get that people do. I hear what you're saying, and I'm sympathetic to it. So I guess the question, how do we change it? You're saying, Jamu, we change it through education. We change it by making people aware of these things, so that Patrice, they have a sensitivity chip that they otherwise might not have.
Well, that's true. I mean, I will agree that, it's important people are exposed to other people. And Harvard Business Review looked at 30 years of diversity and bias training, and they found that the reason why these trainings tend to fail or not have long-term impacts is because there's a backlash. People feel like they've been force-fed this information and knowledge rather than actually building authentic relationships with people. And so, while I'm pleased that we're talking about how do we look at other people, not just through the biases that we may or may not have, but we're also starting to think, okay, well, how do we overcome them? And, forcing someone into a training may not be the best way to do it. Maybe it's ensuring that people are interacting on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, it's a step. I mean, it's something they can do. It's something they can do from a PR perspective to help them.
Sure.
But it's also something that, as a society, I do think we need to pay more attention to, because it's not right. It's not fair. I mean, you shouldn't be questioning in the back of your mind, is someone not giving me this opportunity, this job, or picking me up in a cab because of the color of my skin? I mean, that's not a country that any of us want to live in. So it's too bad what happened at Starbucks. But again, they're doing the right thing. Jamu, Patrice, thank you. Good to see you guys.
Thank you.